Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Kuda Money Carol. Today we are going to be reacting to Presidential Pets, A Brief History by Salmonella Academy. Interesting name. I have never watched this channel before, so I have no expectations. Let's see what they're all about.
Hey adults. So most of us are aware of at least one animal companion to the commander-in-chief. All but 3 presidents have owned some kind of pet during their term, and there's good reason for that. Not only does a lovable mutt serve to humanize an otherwise larger-than-life figure, but their cute antics can also be a great distraction when needed. Huh? Drone strikes? Never heard of her. Hey, we're doing a photo op with this dog that shares a name with my vice president's son, cause that's not weird at all. But as it turns out, dogs and cats are just the tip of the iceberg. There have been a lot of quadrupedal occupants of the White House, even without Miss Lewinsky. So today we'll be going through just a few of the more interesting ones. Going back to the beginning, Washington had critters galore, including 4 black and tan slurhounds that he named Drunkard, Taster, Tippler, and Tipsy. It sounded like if Santa's reindeer were all alcoholics, which would be a shame because Rudolph's red nose would no longer be of note. John Adams had 3 dogs that presumably spanned the alignment chart, being named Juno, Mark, and Satan respectively. Not a joke. Jefferson kept around 40 sheep during his presidency, one of which was a 4-horned Shetland ram. Though nameless, said ram soon became famous for killing a young boy on White House grounds. Rather than immediately destroying the animal as we'd expect today, Jefferson just had it moved back to Monticello. It was eventually put down, but only after it single-handedly killed several other rams at the estate, which just goes to show how Jefferson operated. Random child, not the best optics, but that can be forgiven. But my own property, that's a bridge too far, Rambo. John Quincy Adams' wife Louisa practiced sericulture, which is a fun word for silkworm keeping. As a side note, sericulture has been going on since at least 3630 BC, which is kinda nutty, because that means we domesticated worms to turn their goo into clothes before we figured out how to ride a horse. Jackson had an African...
I always wondered, how do people figure that out? Is there a documented way that people figure that out? Because it seems very... how would you come across that? I don't know.
Gray parrot named Poll, short for Polly, that would apparently curse like a sailor, probably thanks to the teachings of Old Hickory himself. Having outlived its owner, Poll ended up being removed from Jackson's funeral service after unleashing so much profanity that guests found it genuinely upsetting. He also kept roosters for cockfighting, which was acceptable at the time and still far from the worst thing he's done morally. During Van Buren's term, the Sultan of Oman sent a variety of gifts to the president, among them being a pair of tiger cubs.
Oh my God,
like,
really?
This is badass, and desperately wanted to keep them in the White House, but the dickheads in Congress asserted that, due to a specific constitutional provision, gifts to the presidential office weren't for the man himself, but for the people. Van Buren said, "Fuck the people, them's my tigers," and got into a legal battle with the legislator over the issue, which he eventually lost. The tigers were subsequently sent to a zoo, and over 20 years later, Van Buren died of pneumonia, completely unrelated to this incident. Although Andrew Johnson had no de jure pets, he did befriend a family of mice he found in his bedroom, feeding them flour and grain and referring to them as the little fellows. It's an oddly wholesome thing to hear from someone who essentially set the trajectory for the next 100 years of black disenfranchisement. Mr. Johnson, we still have a country to rebuild. Get out of my room, I'm getting rat-pilled. Taft had 2 cows during his term. The first of them was named Mooly Wooly, and she died a year and a half in after, quote, eating too many oats. Mooly was promptly replaced by the far more dignified Pauline Wayne. She was a real dime of a heifer, which led Taft to show her off at the International Dairymen's Expo in Milwaukee. In order to get her there, she was transported in a private car attached to a train headed for the stockyards in Chicago. But a switch crew mixed up which car was hers, leading to 2 days of frantic telegraphs asking where the president's cow had gone. She only narrowly avoided the slaughterhouse when a couple of attendants at the stockyard recognized Pauline for what she was, and all was well. This next one requires a little background info. So the traditional Thanksgiving dinner was and remains a significant yearly ceremony for the first family. For half a century,
I don't
from
like that they take a
1873
picture.
to 1913, the
I don't
duty
know,
of
I shouldn't
providing
be.
the presidential turkey belonged to one Horace Vose, a private turkey farmer based in Rhode Island. After his death, though, things turned into a free-for-all, with numerous farmers sending unsolicited turkeys, both alive and dead, in an attempt to secure a position as the next annual caterer for the White House.
Okay, that's such a waste of food. If you have a turkey to spare, send it to someone who... Send it to, a homeless shelter. Shit, not to someone who has all the money in the world and all the free donations in the world. That doesn't make sense.
was decided on for a decade, and upon assuming office in 1923, Calvin Coolidge found the volume of birds showing up at his doorstep alarming, and put an end to the tradition that year, instead opting to buy his own turkey. But in 1925,
Good.
after much outside pressure, he caved, and was immediately flooded with not only turkey, but a variety of increasingly exotic
Oh.
animals to eat. Among them was a live raccoon he received the following year. Coolidge was, at the time, blissfully unaware of the intricate dance performed on the palate between forward yet ephemeral gaminess and heady seductive musk when one submits himself to the experience of a toothsome raccoon fillet, and as such he decided
actually
to keep
ate
it as a
it?
pet instead.
Oh,
Dubbed
uh-huh.
Rebecca, the creature soon came to be a core member of the Coolidge family. She ate as well as any of
Aw,
them, being
he
fed
looked
things
cute.
like shrimp and persimmons, and she was particularly fond of eggs. Given free reign over the house, Rebecca's hobbies reportedly included unscrewing light bulbs, uprooting houseplants, and playing with wet bars of soap in the bathtub. She was so beloved that she even had her own treehouse built for her in the White House yard. When the Coolidges made way for the Hoovers, Rebecca was forced to vacate her post, but the new first family soon found that they had a squatter on their hands. The new
Ooh,
tenant of Rebecca's
opossum?
treehouse was a wild opossum who, rather than being evicted, was adopted by the Hoovers in a similar fashion to Rebecca, albeit from a farther distance.
I mean,
mostly
possums
just
don't
like,
really
yeah, that's
bother
ours
you.
now. He was given the name Billy Possum, which is a reference to our old friend
They
Taft.
kind of just do
See,
their
as the
own
man
thing.
following
They
Teddy
rarely
Roosevelt in
attack.
the White House, Taft had some big shoes to fill. So during his term, some enterprising young dumbasses approached Taft with what they claimed would be the sequel to the teddy bear. They called it Billy Possum, which is itself a reference to the president's fondness of possum and taters, a dish he famously
Oh.
requested at a banquet in Atlanta as an act of goodwill towards the South and its culture. Taft found the idea
Oh my
of
god, he
using
actually
nothing
ate
and
it?
gave the green light, and many thousands of Billy Possums were produced. Given their total obscurity today, it's clear these toys were a massive flop, and there's a few reasons for that. For one, trying to force fads at all is like trying to push water uphill, but also, the story of Roosevelt refusing to shoot a tied-up bear has a bit more symbolic poetry to it than, it's a possum, cause he like possum, he a fat boy, eat him up good. Couple that with the constant character assassination that the opossum as an animal has received from ignorant urbanites, and it becomes obvious that this thing was doomed from the start. But anyway, that's where the Hoover opossum got his name, and his exploits were pretty limited outside of temporarily filling in as a mascot of a local high school. In 1961, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev gifted a dog to the Kennedys, named Pushinka, or Fluffy. And while it is normally rude to look a gift dog in the
Pushinka.
mouth, an exception can be made when the single biggest threat to the free world insists that said dog should live with the president. Pushinka was x-rayed, put through metal detectors, and given ultrasounds out of fear that
Wouldn't
someone
that
implanted
kill
her
the
with a
dog?
listening device. Fortunately, though there may be bugs in some of you mugs, there ain't no bugs in she, and Pushinka remained a Kennedy for the rest of her days. While truthfully, the gift was likely given as a simple act of good faith designed to reduce Cold War tensions.
Nah, it's a cute
Pushinka was
puppy.
also the daughter of Strelka, who, during Sputnik 5, became the first mammal to make it back from space alive. So I'd like to
Oh,
think of it
shit.
as more of a passive-aggressive space race flex. Like, yeah, our astronanimals are so alive, they're making babies even. Hope looking at this one constantly reminds you of where you stand. With that, I hope you found this highlight reel enlightening. It feels good to know that while Congress has always been a zoo, so too has the White House at times. That's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and you make my girlhood tremble.
Okay, I thought that was really fun. I actually kind of want to watch another one. I had like no idea about like the pets in the White House, and honestly, I don't really pay attention to like presidential history and all that. I know it's a bad thing as you get older. They're like you should be more involved with politics and all that crap. But I'm just kind of we're it's kind of like a damned if you do, a damned if you don't kind of situation. So we kind of don't know how to feel about it. But yeah, I think I'm gonna watch another. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.